Hello. Today we are going to talk about Coupa opportunities. So in Coupa, I'm sure you've seen from a sourcing manager perspective, there's the opportunities tab, and then it does say create some opportunity triggers. Opportunity triggers in Coupa are pretty cool, but since they are operation wide, they're really not very useful for like a property buyer or manager to really understand some of the local opportunities that you have. So today I'm going to show you how to create a report in Coupa to give you data, and then we're going to pull it out and we're actually going to put it in um, a pretty quick Excel like lookup, and we're going to talk about how we can use it. So first, I'm actually going to go to invoices, and there's two tabs here that are useful: invoices and invoice lines. Because I want to pull information like commodity, which is a line level detail, and I want to pull information like GL code potentially, item information, those are all item level details. So I definitely want to start in the invoice lines. And I've already created my own view. If you want to create a view, you can go all the way to the bottom and create one from scratch. Or there is another video out there that talks about copying a view and taking it and kind of modifying it for your own property. So you can always watch that and kind of steal mine. So you can see we're going to go into the details by hitting the edit button. And my report is pretty simple. Right now I'm looking for invoices that are the last 12 months. So just taking a snapshot of the last 12 months of spend. We're going to look at Blackhawk today. So my accounting company code is 82. We're only going to look at contract that's blank, right? So these are only the opportunities, right? The non-contracted pieces of spend. So, but we kind of have to take that with a grain of salt, because sometimes we do cut POs that are non-contracted that really aren't opportunities. So there's things like taxes, government fees, financial regulation fees, gaming fees, etc. So there's a couple of things here I added just as kind of an example of these are commodities that I want that don't contain freight, don't contain utilities. You can add things like taxes, fees, entertainment, all these things here to kind of sort out the items that you at a property don't feel like are, things that are opportunities, right? So once I add that, I kind of scroll down to the selected columns. You can see here I have supplier, which is really important, invoice information, description of item, item number, total, which is going to give me the line total, which is important because that's going to give me overall spend, so I can kind of sort my opportunities by spend, and then commodity, as well as contract number, just so I can make sure they're blank. If you have some additional information in here, it's not a big deal. You don't have to use it all, but it's nice to have. You can always add more to this by taking and dropping, or taking out and dropping back in the available column. So available is what is, and I can put in my report, and selected is what's going to be in my report. So once I've kind of selected all that, I want to scroll to the bottom, and since I've already created this, the only thing I'm going to do is hit save. And then the system is going to show me what my report looks like in Coupa, right? It's not going to send it to Excel or anything like that, but this is my report. So it's going to give me all that information I'm looking for, but in this raw data format, it's really not helpful. Like, I can go through here and kind of scroll and get an idea like, oh, I'm seeing a lot of this or a lot of this, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's my biggest opportunity. So that's where pulling this information out of Coupa and putting it in Excel is really important. So at the top of this screen, once I feel like I have kind of filtered out all the stuff that I don't feel like is opportunity, like taxes and fees and freights and all that stuff, I am going to export this to Excel. Now, once I get in an Excel, if I feel like, oh, I missed some stuff, I can always come back in here, add some more filters with this edit button, hit save, and I can export it again, right? So don't worry about doing it a couple times, especially the first time. I always have to build reports a couple times to make sure they're just right. So once you export it to Excel, the invoice report is going to pull up and it's going to look a lot like this. Now this is a zip folder, so it's compressed because it is a lot of data. So I'm going to open this folder. It is a trustworthy source. It's going to open a quick access, and then I'm going to actually open the Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so here's my Excel spreadsheet, and it's a lot of data, right? So if I scroll down, I can see it's like thousands and thousands and thousands of lines, which if you're just randomly looking through here, I don't really know how well you're going to notice good opportunities, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to enable editing, and I'm going to show you a really quick, fast way to kind of pull the information and summarize by spend by supplier. So then, as soon as you have that information, you can kind of use some critical thinking skills, look through the suppliers, determine if it's a good opportunity or not. So the first thing we're going to do is pull the information into a report. So I'm going to do that by coming down here to the bottom of my screen, and I'm going to add another sheet just because this is going to be my summary sheet with all my information on it. I'm going to come to the top where insert. I'm going to go over to pivot chart and add a pivot chart and pivot table. And then it's going to ask me to select a range. Now, there's probably a couple fast ways you can do this using some keyboard shortcuts, but I'm going to show you guys the way I do it just because I'm not a great Excel user. So I'm going to click this button, and then it's going to ask me, it's asking me what cells I want the pivot table to look at. So that's where I'm going to come to my first sheet, and I'm going to start right at the very beginning in cell A1, and I'm going to click, hold, and drag. Right? Because I'm going to get all of this good information. Now this is going to drag for a little while, but this is going to be like all my purchases, all of this good data is going to be pulled into this pivot table. And all I'm going to have to do as soon as I get all of this highlighted is just click a couple buttons. So when I get to the end, I'm going to unclick, and you can see my little dotted line is still flashing. So I'm going to click this button, and then I'm going to hit OK. And then it's going to take me back automatically to my summary page. Now, it hasn't put anything in here yet, so I'm going to go over here to the pivot chart fields, and I'm going to tell it kind of what I'm looking for. Now, if you click something and you decide that's not what you want, it's not a big deal. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select supplier, right? So you notice it added supplier down here into the access category, and it now added one line for every supplier. So now I can at least see these are all of the different suppliers that I'm doing business with that are potential opportunities. Okay. Now there's about 272. So that just tells me that big old data sheet is not something I'm going to just scroll through and find opportunities on my own. Okay. So once I've kind of added this information, there's a couple other things I can do here. So I am going to really focus on total, but let's say I hit price by accident. So the sum of price here, it just added, this is individual items though. So if there's only one item, it's going to sum my price at $20, right? So acquisition, this is a good example. Let's say I don't really want price. So I can unclick it and it will go away. And then I can click total instead. Now notice the difference in my totals, right? We went from $20 to $40,000. That's a big difference. And then I can always play around. So if I want to move these, it automatically will move it. It'll tell me if it's too many errors. So I can hit OK, not a big deal. And then I can kind of move it around and see what works for me. I am a big fan of putting suppliers in the access category and then sum of total in the values category. And the reason being is because it automatically kind of sums the spend with that supplier. So I can go through here and I can highlight this column. If it's easier for me to see it in dollars and to associate dollars, I can just make it dollars. And then I can kind of go through here, and by supplier, I can look and say, hey, Bangering Enterprises, is this an area of opportunity for my property? What do I buy from them? Right? Is this a national contract? Should this have been on a catalog? right? So right under bar green, right, we have $100,000 worth of spend that wasn't on a catalog. Does that mean it was non-contracted? Probably not. Because we do have an agreement with Bar Green, this just means I have a little bit of spend that I could maybe work with Melissa, the category manager, on and get added to the punch out or the catalog, right? So it does look like I added the central city of Blackhawk. So the city of Blackhawk, we pay taxes to them. That's not a big opportunity for us. I'm not going to be able to pick another supplier or negotiate with them. So that is something I could filter out in my initial report. And so I wouldn't see it here, but since I didn't, it's not a big deal. But this is kind of my area of opportunity. So when I do notice something that maybe isn't on a contract, not national, it's kind of a lot of spend. So $15,000 is kind of a lot of spend in my mind. I can always go, man, what do we buy from Butler Rents, right? So it doesn't tell me on the summary page, but I can go to my original data sheet and I can scroll all the way to the top. I'm going to use my scroll over here. I'm going to scroll to the top. I'm going to highlight this and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit Add Filter. Now notice all these little drop downs showed up. Now under Supplier, I can unselect and select as I want to see. So if I'm really interested in what we've been buying from Butler Rents, I can just select Butler and hit OK. And then it's going to tell me all of the things that I've been buying from Butler. And I can really use my skills and what I know about the property, and I can say, man, this is a good thing for me to bid out, and I could potentially save the property a lot of money and get this contracted for, the next 12 months, the next 2 years, the next 3 years, and this is an opportunity for me. So this is the best way to identify by property opportunities in how we purchase at a property level. So I hope this was helpful, and have a good day.